So we have Rowan here today. He is a 7-year-old Gypsy Friesian cross. He is in for some driving training. He had some time spent before under saddle, but it wasn't the best experience with the trainer that had him. And we're doing some driving. Yeah, you don't need to smell me. Instead of the riding stuff to kind of give his brain a break, so. And hopefully help regain his confidence, huh, buddy? So he wore his surcingle yesterday. He's got the breast collar on today. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce the long lines on him and do some work with it. I don't know if the prior trainer did any long lining or anything like that with him, so we're just gonna treat him like he doesn't know and go from there. So with any completely green novice horse, I'll start out with just putting it on the halter here even. Let our line out. You can stand. And just bring it around and touch him with it. Good boy. Most of your horses are going to be like this. You're going to touch them with it and they're not going to care. I think he's more concerned about me walking around than he is about the rope. Where are you going, Rowan? You're fine. So what I'm looking for right now is just for him to stand still when I do this. You're good. I know, you don't quite like me being behind your tail, do you? Huh. You're gonna have to work on that. There's a good boy. So that time he stood still. Good boy. There's a good boy. Yeah, you're fine. A good boy. Good job. I know, big heavy sigh, huh? We're gonna repeat that on the other side. And I'm not doing this with a bitted bridle on him because when you first introduce this, if he were to jump or what have you, I don't want him getting caught in the mouth. That, and I'm gonna be swinging the rope around and I don't want it jiggling around in his mouth. That's not necessarily fair to him, especially if he's not familiar with this, huh? There's a good boy. Atta boy, good job. So that side was better. Good boy. So step 2 here, it touches him. And I want to be able to flip it over his back. Good boy. Little twitch. But he kept his feet still. Good boy. I know it touched you again. You're fine. You're fine. You get it. Oh, little concern. There's a good boy. We're going to add line number 2. So we're going to go from side to side. He feels that side. He feels that side. Good boy. No big deal. Doop. And we're going to swing this up and over. Doop. Doop. Whoops. There we go. Good boy. And it doesn't matter if you're awkward with this, it's fine. The more awkward you are, actually the better, because it helps them realize that, oh, these lines moving around doesn't actually mean anything. It's just incidental movement, because there's going to be incidental movement when you're doing stuff, huh? And we want him to be relaxed if there is incidental movement. We don't want him feeling something briefly touching his side and having him go, oh crap, I need to do something about that. I'm gonna check how your tail is. He's a little tight with it, so I'm gonna wait for him to relax. There you go. I'll go on this side so you guys can see a little bit better. So I'm just putting my hand underneath his tail. I'm gonna do a little side to side here. See if he'll soften and relax. He's not super tight, but he does kind of have a heavy tail. There's a lot of hair here. There's a good boy. So when we go to put the crupper on, we've got to be able to manipulate his tail. Good boy. Good boy. And something you can do if you have a horse that you don't know if they have ever had a crupper on is you can start out by just putting a rope under their tail. And you know, this cotton rope here is going to be bigger than anything that should ever go under his tail. But we'll start out with that, So what we should be able to do is I'm just going to set this on his back for the moment. I should be able to take his tail, lift it up, get this rope under here, and just form a little loop with it. And set it up underneath his dock. And then what we do, walk on, is we allow him to walk. And as he relaxes and lifts his tail, it should fall out of there. Like a boy. You don't seem to mind it too much, do you, buddy? We'll set that up there. Walk on. Yep. Oh, big yawns. Walk on. You're holding it in there pretty good, dude. I'm gonna drop the rope and see if we can just there we go, good boy. So there, it took a little act of gravity to finally get it out from underneath there. He does have a heavy tail. It's just thick and full of hair. So, but if you have a horse who's extra anxious about putting something under their tail, that's a good exercise you can do with, you know, any type of preferably thick rope. They learn that if they lift the tail, the pressure goes away. Because what you don't want is you're driving along, if your horse manages to get the lines underneath their tail, you don't want them clamping their tail on the lines and then you've got no control and then you go to try and get your lines back and you cause more and more of a problem. Hi, little man. All right. What I am going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and put the crupper on him. I am going to take off my trace carriers here and I'm going to wet down this crupper because it is hot out here. I just want it to not burn his little tail head. That would be bad. There we go. All right, dude. Go ahead and shorten that. It was on Halo last. She's a little bigger than he is. There we go. So when we put the grouper on, I want to keep my hand on the buckle. I'm going to work my other hand underneath his tail here. Grab the buckle. Get it underneath there. Good boy. Oh, I know. Oh, you got hair stuck in your bum hole. We want to be sure all the hairs are out of the way here. There we go. When you're doing your fit on your grouper, and I learned this other method recently, but typically what I do is I want to be able to stack 4 fingers on top of the croup. The secondary measure is you lift the tail, and you don't want to actually stick your finger in there, but you should have enough space between the grouper and his tailbone to put 1 finger there, or at least eyeball it. Don't actually stick your finger in there. Some of them won't like it. So now that the grouper's on, I'm going to go ahead and lunge him for a minute just to double check and see that he's okay, walk and trot. And I'm going to grab one of my lunge lines. So anytime you add a new piece of equipment, I do recommend, going back to basic exercise, lunging the horse again. Don't, throw the breast collar on him and hook him to the tire at the same time. You don't want to put the grouper on for the first time and then ask them to do a nose to the rail leg yield. No, go back to just walk, halt, walk, trot, canter. Be sure he's comfortable with this new piece of equipment before you do anything else new. All right, dude. Rowan, trot. Yep. Let's go. Yep. Trot. Yep. There's a good boy. I know, things are swinging around on there, huh? Walk on. Yep. Good boy. So if I do have a horse, when I ask them to step up, if they kind of, they get wide-eyed and they slow down, I'm not necessarily going to ask him to go ahead and go faster again. I'm going to give him a second to realize that, oh, if I get worried, I can slow down and things get better. Hi, dude. Rowan, trot. Yep. Let's go. Step up. Trot. Yep. Trot on. Yep. There you go, buddy. Good boy. Good boy. Walk on. Rowan, trot. Yep. Rowan, trot. As he gets more relaxed with it, I will push him up and say, no, you can keep going. But especially that first time, if he kind of gets a little wide-eyed and goes, oh, I'm worried about this, I will allow him to slow down, or I'll ask him to. Walk. Good boy. All right, Rowan, can we reverse? Do you know how to do this? Yep, step, ha. Attaboy. Rowan, trot. Yep. That's a good boy. That's a good boy. Rowan, walk. Out you go. Good boy. Good boy. So he seems to have no problem with the grouper. I think he was more worried about my little line spreader swinging back and forth a little bit than he was about that. So, good boy. Whoa. Rowan. Whoa. Whoa. Hey. Whoa. Hey. Thank you. So there, he was a little confused about me asking him to stop. And what I basically did is I brought the whip in front of me. Walk on. We're going to do that again. Out. Yep. Out. And brought him in, step hop, on a smaller circle. Yep. There you go. Good boy. And as he got in on a smaller circle, I eventually just put the whip in front of his face and said, stop. Walk on. So if you have a horse who's not slowing down when you do just a little tug on the line and bring your whip for it, or, say the word, what you can do is Rowan, whoa. Stop your feet. Bring the whip in front. Little tugs on the line. Good boy. And I'll raise the whip up and down a couple times. If he really isn't stopping, I may actually just put it on his nose. Some horses, they'll be like, they'll get a little up about it being on their face, but eventually they realize, oh, if I stop when I see that thing in front, it doesn't touch me. Huh. Rowan, walk. Good boy. Now you'll also notice that when I ask him forward, I do a single click for walk, and I give myself a pause between each click. I'm not just, it's a single one. And the reason for that is I want him to respond to just one click. If I didn't care how many clicks it took to get him to go, I'd just keep going with it. But if I want him to respond to that single one, I have to give him enough space to respond. So, Rowan, whoa, stop my feet, whip in front. And we had an obstacle that helped us out there. Rowan, whoa, stop my feet, whip in front, little tugs. Not sure how well he can see the whip with all of his hair in the way. Whoa. Reel him in. Hey. Good boy. Rowan, walk. And I think we'll do one more nice halt. Walk on. Good boy. And the same thing with the whip. I'm not just going to sit there and shake it really fast at him. I'm going to give him the chance to respond to me, raising it up, swinging it down, and then coming up and touching him with progressively harder touches until he actually responds. If he's trying, I'll stay at a lower level. Rowan, whoa. So if I notice he's slowing down, hey, which he's not. Whoa. I'll stay at the same level. There we go. So there he started to slow down. I went ahead and dropped the whip. I gave him slack, said, yep, that's the right idea. Good boy. Good boy. All right, dude. Come over this way, little man.